Hi, everybody. Mondion Astral Oracles. Pondering a little about what I wanted to do with the practice and where I wanted to take it, I've decided to experiment with working in themes. It's also so it becomes more easily accessible to figure out what it is you're interested in the work that I do, and then you can dive into that specific topic. So every month I'll try to examine a new theme, and I'll probably do this from different angles or invite in who's calling me or where it seems pertinent. But the month of September will be fully dedicated to the draconic energy, and with that also the major blueprint of the ancient shapeshifting reptilians. Now you can go all the way back on the video section of the channel, and there you'd be able to find the early reptilian lore saga that I recorded, and there's also a lot of other stuff with them. Partially I've channeled my main man Flip Krach Trukar, but I've also channeled like the Sophia Dragon Collective and many other odd reptilian species. I've also channeled a lot of them in private sessions, because they are the most prolific species in this universe. There is no place they won't go, and they are aiming to colonize, that is to take in all aspects of this universe and reflect it in their own energy. So in that way they have no limitations, and yet limitations are of course what they work in, seeing as they are incarnate. So the central mythology of the ancient shapeshifting reptilians is that they were created in a universe that existed prior to this one in temporal terms. And seeing as all universes, again in temporal terms, are moving towards becoming whole, that is, they exist in a state of disconnection where consciousness then enters and builds this universe. And in that way it connects everything into one divine unity of matter and spirit. And when that is done, the universe is resolved and it gives way to a new universe. This is in the soap bubbly layers of the 11th dimension. These are of course realities that are very hard to access in language or with our physical, mental, spiritual, conceptual limitations. But you can climb this ladder and you can get to this place where the probabilities of cosmic creation seem to be bubbling in some kind of astral, very, very subtle soup, where these universes arrive as bubbles and arising from this type of soup, this substratum of being. They are sort of descending from the perfect unity of the 12th dimension, infinity itself, and then into lower scales of consciousness. So it begins anew with a slightly new set of configurations than the universe directly adjacent to it. What the reptilians managed to do was they jumped from one of these soap bubbles that had arisen or completed its circuit to a degree where it was about to pop, and in that moment they managed to get into the creation of this one. This also means that their vibration is slightly askew from the fundamental laws of matter, nature, reality itself in this universal continuum that we exist in. Therefore, they aren't in this universe connected to what we call chi, prana, or Holy Ghost, this universal energy that permeates the universe, and that is the force that gives life to it. This means that they can't work directly with source energy. This is another term for it, source energy. They can't work directly with the pure, bright vibrancy that animates everything. They are instead stuck with using or consuming energy that has already been brought into creation and working with ringing and writing this into their own designs and to accommodate them. This also means that the situations they establish, the things they build and create, are inherently slightly unstable, and they constantly need to transform, change, and take in new energy to transmute, to sustain themselves and keep existing. This lesser energy that they work with, it is sometimes referred to as Rill. I think the term stems from a book called The Coming Race that was published in the 1870s by some kind of out there English thinker, but it has since been used in different fun Nazi conspiracies, and it also turns up in Robert Anton Wilson's authorship and in the Illuminatus trilogy, which I highly recommend. Rill is, to put it simply, the dark side of the Force. So it's this speedy energy that has already been produced, so it doesn't require alignment. It's a kind of surfeit that already exists and arises from matter, from things in creation. And it arises from the discharge of energy that comes from matter as it is not regulated or connected into divine consciousness. That is, again, when everything is ordered in divine consciousness, the microcosmic expression of this is what we call enlightenment, and the macrocosmic expression of this is both the point of creation and the point of completion of the universe. But this source creation, this gives up a type of surplus energy as it drops down into the lower dimensional grades where it is less connected to universal consciousness. This is exactly what the reptilians are then looking to work with. It is the energy that comes from unconsciousness. It's the energy that arises from life that discharges blindly and doesn't know where to go. Therefore, what they work with as they interact with human beings is they work with our patterns of unconsciousness. So they work in the shadows, so to speak, or they work often in bodily layers that are inaccessible to our awareness, that are suppressed often or haven't simply become aware yet. And they often also work in mental codes that are unaware. So our unaware mental patterns are psychological configuration. Because what is our psychological configuration? It's essentially the tape that is running with the stories we tell ourselves to make ourselves sleep at night. Well, to make a coherent existence out of this chaos of perception that we find ourselves in. So when we say we create our own reality, and we do create our own reality from the spiritual perspective, we create it from the point of attention. So what we do is we align, as we wake up to ourselves, we align with the will within this divine impulse we have to carry out and do the work that is somehow laid out for us in this world. And when we do that, we become aware and we become connected to our will. We also become to a much higher degree masters of our attention. And you will notice on your own path that a thing you have experienced as you've moved deeper and deeper into connective states is that your attention partially has to integrate all the stuff that it was unaware of, but also that it becomes far more disciplined in what it wants to do So it becomes far more selective. And I assume if you're watching this, there was probably a point in your own path where you decided that you felt inclined to look up other sources of alternative information. Really be quite discerning about where you were taking in stuff and what you were using it for. And this is sort of the vaccination against the darker aspects of the reptilians. So this dark influence that works in unconsciousness, it is essentially oriented against or towards survival. So you will also notice that as we try to activate these higher circuits of awareness of being in ourselves, that one of the clear signs that you're progressing is that your level of mortification, of general fear, begins to drop, at least often related to these more mundane concerns that we can't control anyway. Whereas if you exist in fear and lack states, you are matching up to this reptilian energy. It is vibrating at the same frequency. And again, if we point to their origin story, it would make sense that what their prime experience or their final experience in the universe they came from was that they were under threat of being subsumed into divine unity, and that threatened their survival. And it was this very intense survival project that then drove them into a new reality. And this survival instinct, it sits at our base chakra. And this is also where, well, both our raw energy is concentrated, our creative energy in our root chakra, but it is also where fear of annihilation, all these, the most basic human fears, they reside energetically. And if we're very regulated by the dark unconscious impulses that arise from this place, we also tend to seek out the thing that will immediately or apparently seem to us as a means towards our own permanent survival. And that thing is power. It's control over our environment. It's control over unpredictables. It's hoarding and having enough. And notice that this impulse is connected to an undirected and unwilled impulse. It is slavish because it keeps changing its objects, because the vibrational reality of fear, of survival, of fear itself doesn't change. It just changes its objects, which is why you will find, and I'm sure we all know this from our lives, that we can have these experiences where we think that if I get this thing, I'll feel safe and secure. And then you get it, and then of course a new problem arises, because the problem wasn't necessarily you getting that thing. The problem was the fact that you were very, very fearful about it. That was what drove you to this level of obsession. The reptilians, they have this in droves. And so what do they do with all this energy? Well, they hoard it for their own purposes. And what are their purposes? Well, their purposes is hoarding it, so they have it, so they're sure they have it, so they won't get destroyed again. That is, the more they can freeze and lock up and make this universe static, the more secure they are. And this is this frozen energy. This is the dragon sitting on its hoard, simply waiting to slay whoever comes to challenge it and use it for something better, for something good. They will destroy that because their aim is to hoard it. And we have, of course, as human beings, invented a technology called currency that allows us to quantify and materialize this type of material influence, control, security, and stack it. And so notice that the general vibrancy of humankind is very much dealing with this idea that, oh, the more we hoard and the more we get, the more we actually experience a surplus. So we have this weird structure of debt that we've created also as a part of that currency. There seems to be a tendency, or even a necessity, that for all the energy that is unspent, a debt arises, because the purpose of energy is, of course, to flow freely, to transmute, to unite into higher orders, to become aware of its own aspects, and thereby mirror itself into higher creations and realities. Whereas you will find that this reptilian principle is often a principle of entropy. It is something that moves very fast, but it moves so fast that it destroys what it touches. It moves so fast that it actually breaks things down. And that seems to be the forces that we are straddling as human beings, that we are partially aware in our innermost cores of this divine link we have to the heavens and these angelic presences that seem to be guiding our existence. But we are also very caught up in the ravages of sensation, these intensities that constantly flow through us and that compel us to do things. And they often use this type of vacuum, this idea that there is a fear, there is some kind of void to be filled, and if we can just get enough, we can eventually fill it. So those are the darker aspects of the reptilian energy. And the way I'm going to structure this theme is that I will move from darker aspects in the beginning of the month, and then let's look into what this reptilian energy is doing and how we are also helping it to unite with the divine, because that is a different part of what they have also been telling us, that humanity seems to be a gateway for them to make peace with the angelic, at least in a symbolic sense. That is a way to describe what is going on in human existence at a very deep and profound level. And I would love to, of course, go on this journey, take this dragon's flight, and see if we can get back into the high ethers and astral layers with our reptilian friends. So what I'm going to do in this video now is that I will not channel my friend Flip Krach that is coming up. I will channel the Archangel Michael. And the Archangel Michael is, of course, the Dragonslayer, and his feast, his Saint's Day, is coming up as September draws to a close. So I think it would be fitting to have him talk about slaying the dragon, the draconic energy seen from an angelic perspective, and how they relate to it and what its purpose is, because everything is, of course, in divine allowance. That is, that there is nothing in existence that isn't ultimately allowed for by the divine will, sublime reality, that deep mystic throne that sits at the center of all existence. So let's speak to the Archangel Michael and see what he has to say about our dragon and reptile friends. Much love to you guys. Blessings I bring to you from the high heavens, from the divine throne, where the unknown that you know so well in your breath and in the beating of your heart is seated, seeing and knowing all things, yet not interceding, not controlling, permitting everything. Our Mother, Father, God, if you wish to use this term, they allowed also for this universe to be an interplay of colors, of nuances. They allowed for it to be a very complex composition where dissonance also serves the purpose of higher harmony. I am the Archangel Michael. I speak to you this day, and all days I walk with you, protecting you, keeping your boundaries safe from undue influences. I am the one who supports acts of divine will as they are carried out by humankind. Your divine will, you know it in your heart. It is your quest. It is the whisper of your holy guardian angel, and it is the visions in your dreams at night, the premonitions in your waking states. You know me as the one who slays the great beast. These beings, these dragons, magnificent they are. Truly, they are also God's creatures. Yet, they have chosen to go astray. They have chosen to explore paths that the divine namer had not yet named, that the divine creator had not foreseen in his creation of this universe. They are the dark horse, the element of jest, the play within perfect order. They are the visitor that was not expected. They are the uninvited guest. And the uninvited guest is the one who begins the intrigue. The uninvited guest is the fairy that brings the curse in the fairy tale to the newborn. The uninvited guest is that mischievous mistress that brings an apple of discord to a happy celebration. It is good that it is so. From my perspective, I'd have been put out of commission. I would have been serving other realms and other realities if these beings had not been here for me to protect you from. Wide as my influence extends, it does not reach into those layers of reality where everything is already divinely ordered. Instead, I descend into the disordered worlds, the realms of forgetfulness. Here, to wield a fiery blade against the foes of the one who lasts forever. That is to say, on a cosmic scale, there is an outcome not yet decided upon, where this universe may become dark, impenetrable, obscure, like a ball of black granite, something dense, closed, shut even to the divine eye. Now know that the High Ones, they have infinite universes to work with. Yet each one of them is dear to them, and all their parts intrinsic to their well-being. Therefore, they do not wish to cede even one of these universes to these dragons, to this principle of darkness that seeks to lock out the light, to shun it, and to create for themselves a small little duchy within the massive kingdom of God. They are not free to rule, but they are free to meddle. They have been allowed to test and try you. They work in a medium of temptation. Notice then the awe that we angels, we inspire in the human heart. How we often demand of you that you live up to the light that you were given, and that this light continues to shine and is not dimmed by the world. The dragons, on the other hand, they bring you a fire that you must feed, and quickly it dies. Swiftly it is consumed And you feeding this fire with the most precious parts of yourself. You yourself, you are consumed with it. This is being lost in the passions of the world, not to experience them as ordained by your heart, called forward in their proper time, but with a force, with a theft of life force from your higher source. You cut yourself off and you take the small reward now rather than the great reward later. You take your pleasures now and you leave their consequences for later. This is the way of these beings, the beings that you know as the ancient, shape-shifting reptilians. In angelic codes, we refer to them more as a dissonant sound. It cannot properly be conveyed into these physical dimensions. But you will find that this energy also reveals itself to you, and there you must choose to either forego it or to fit it in to the wider whole. One might suit you if you find that you are not yet equipped to go on an adventure. You are not yet equipped to go up against this dragon, to challenge it, and to win its mysteries, insights, and treasures for yourself. Though this is ultimately your only course of action. All roads eventually will lead you to this barren field where the bones of the dead who have gone before you are scattered, blighted, over a bare desert that you must cross. In its center, seeking the dragon and claiming its power for yourself. Then power removes itself from control. Then power removes itself from destruction. Then power becomes the soul itself that flows through you and your prism of creation. By slaying the dragon, you win back your connection with the heavens. Its treasures are, as you lay claim to them, no longer necessary for you, For by slaying the dragon, you have become what you were meant to be, and your quest can continue unto greater deeds that were made for you alone. I guide you in this. I protect you. I arm and equip you. And I send you joyfully, though apprehensively, with trepidation, out on this great adventure. You too, you walk down paths unknown, and returning along them, you bring back the wonders of experience to us, to everything. You build on and expand the divine love, the connection, the harmonizing of this universe. For that we are thankful. For you we are thankful. For existence we are thankful. Blessed be the divine name. Blessed be the holy light. Blessed be the love that courses through your veins, sweet human beings. I, the Archangel Michael, I take leave from you this day with gratitude in my heart and blessings for your path ahead. Farewell.